to be. We got Senator Josh Harkins just joined us here in the Element Well studio. So this is right up your alley there, Senator. Did I accurately describe? Yeah, I know this is a House bill. You guys haven't even acted on this yet.
No, we haven't yet. Haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but I think the part that I caught at the very end as I was walking in, I think you kind of hit on some of the high points of the bill, but we'll be taking a look at it here in short order on the Senate side and see what the particulars are. But look, and I've had calls from people in my district and across the state that are concerned about what you just basically laid out is the makeup of the board. And I think the putting requirements on board members to have financial experience and what financial experience means is important. But it's a $50-something billion fund, and it's right now I think they said last report we got was 56% funded. So there's a problem there that we need to address, and I've been sounding the alarm on this in my meetings with the executive director for going on 5 years now.
Right.
And it's a touchy subject that a lot of people. I understand their concern, and they are dependent on their pension retirement, and it's important to them, and it's everything to them. They worked their career in a job, and they have an expectation of what's going to be coming. And so anytime you broach the subject, look, I filed a dummy bill because the director had to go to Atlanta to check on his father that had COVID, and we didn't get to meet before the deadline, and I filed a dummy bill that didn't do anything, and I was getting blown up for taking away 13th check and all kind of things. But so it is anytime you deal with PERS, it's a very personal issue, and at the end of the day, we want to make sure that this fund is solvent and is there to pay for not only the retirees, but the 5-year employee that needs it to be there in 25 to 30 years for the next 30 years of their life.
Right.
So there's a lot of different perspectives from people. The retirees are worried about my check today, and the new employees are worried about the system being there and solvent when they retire in 25, 30 years and to be around for the next 30 years of their life. And as people are living longer, it may need to be longer. So there's a lot of professionals that are involved in this, actuaries, investment bankers. There's a lot of people that have different opinions, but we're trying to make the best decisions for the solvency of the fund to make sure it's there and make sure it's there to serve its purpose.
And that's the point, I feel like, Senator, that really needs to be emphasized, is that taking no action is a disaster.
Yeah, it's a disaster.
Right. If so, your concern, understand, rightfully so, from the membership, both active and retired members, is that this thing doesn't change dramatically and that my benefits remain intact. And if I'm, just like you said, a 5-year employee, that they're there when I get ready to retire. Well, doing nothing means all the above. They're probably not going to be there in full when you retire. And even current retirees, depending on, how many more years they receive benefits, they're at risk. So doing nothing is not a solution. Unfortunately, as you know, the mere discussion of taking some action always kind of jumps to worst case scenario. Yeah. They're going to take away my 13th check. They're going to recalculate my benefits, et cetera, et cetera. But I have not heard a single person in the legislature say that they advocated for any sort of major modification to the benefit structure.
No, and I think what we're concerned about, and I think if you look at what the board has recommended, moving it to 22.5% employer contribution and eventually going up to about 27%, the concern is that's going to exacerbate the problem, because I've already heard from city leaders, I've heard from county folks, and I'm sure school districts will probably follow suit. Is they're going to lease employees where they can. They're going to try to farm out as much of the expense, because it's going to be too expensive for them to have people on payroll when they have to have a 27% match on their payroll for benefits, along with health insurance, everything else they have to cover. It gets expensive. They're going to look for the path of least resistance in order to perform the functions that they are required to do. And so, that's the concern that a lot of people have, is just, blatantly, going up to this high percentage mark is going to cause a problem that will continue to have the same effects that we're currently experiencing with PERS. So, you know, we're going to try to make the best decision that for the fund,
right,
for the longevity of it, for the solvency of it, and so it's there for the intended purpose to provide the benefits to the beneficiaries.
One of the common concerns and I guess frustrated expressions that I see, especially from members, involves the state legislators' retirement plan, the so-called SLURP.
Yeah.
That there's this perception out there that the legislators got this special deal and that this SLURP program is what is driving the financial problems of PERS, and they're completely separate funds. One does not have anything to do with the other.
No, that was enacted way before I got in the legislature, but it's one of those things that there's a highway patrol fund, there's the PERS fund, there's another ORP fund that they have out there. So, I mean, each individual fund has different, unfunded liabilities, or liability ratio is different on each of them, but the main one is the one that most employees, including legislators, are in, is the public pension system that's currently at 56% funded.
Yep. We got Senator Josh Harkins in the Element Wealth studio. We're coming right back, folks. Stay with us. We're back. We've got Senator Josh Harkins. He, by the way, serves as the chair of the Senate Finance Committee, represents the good folks of Rankin County across the river there. So I know this PERS thing, it just kind of landed in the Senate here last week, right? The bill that came from the House, and you guys, I'm sure, will review that in earnest and then start talking about that even more so. But we got to have a conversation about it at a minimum.
Yeah.
What the end result that may come in the form of a law that makes its way, or a bill that gets passed by both houses, makes its way to the governor's desk. Not sure what that looks like at this point, but I'm just going to say again, I think you would agree with me. If we do nothing, that's like produces the worst case scenario.
That's not good.
We got to do something. So, and I want to reemphasize, I've not heard a person in the legislature say that they are in favor of any modification to the benefit structure for current members and current retirees. I have heard some interest in possibly creating a new tier.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, modifications to PERS, and they've modified it. I'm in the fourth tier, so they've modified it 4 times.
Yeah.
Creating a 5th tier with a different setup is what we're looking at doing, but I think that's where what does that look like? PERS has obviously had a recommendation out there for a 5th tier with some language for us to consider, and so that's the modification people hear, and the modification people are worried about are 2 different things. I think. Okay. We do need to draw the longer you wait, compounding interest is a real thing.
Yeah.
The longer you wait to do something to try to make some corrective measures, it's just going to take longer to dig out from underneath. And so I think we do need to act pretty soon to come up with a 5th tier. So we'll have a new tier for new hires once they, whenever we establish what that 5th tier looks like and what is, parameters of it. That'll be very important, and going forward, that's what will hopefully be the corrective measures taken to solidify PERS and to make it a viable and solvent fund.
Okay. Let's pivot a bit here.
Yeah.
You've been behind some legislation that unfortunately is even needed, and that involves protecting spaces for women in our state. Tell us about that.
Well, the SAFER Act passed the Senate. It's headed to the House. And what this does is it primarily objective is to protect the privacy and safety of individuals. The bill basically defines what male and female is, and it says that if it is a public restroom where multiple people use the facilities, they have to be done based on the gender at birth.
Unbelievable. I mean, that seems pretty straightforward that we have to do that.
What their sex is at birth. And it's amazing that here we are in 2024, and we're having to basically file a bill that says that, if it's a multiple occupancy restroom, it's done by the sex that you were at birth. I mean, it's to have to sit here and go through this and explain this today is just kind of, it's bizarre that we've gotten to this point, but it's about protecting the privacy of individual little girls and boys. You know, everybody is, you know, you hear anecdotal stories, and they are happening.
Yeah.
Where, you know, people will go into a restroom and there'll be a guy standing in the girl's bathroom. You know, and it's just not something that I don't think any parent, as a father of two daughters, I don't, you know, you want your children to be able to go use the facilities and not expect to have somebody else in there.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be in there.
It's crazy. Well, so what's the status of that?
Well, it's in the House now. It's going to go over with all the other bills that have passed the chamber.
Yep.
They're going to swap sides this week, and this will go over to the House and be assigned to a committee and up for consideration. But, you know, this deals with restrooms. It deals with single-sex dormitories on university and junior college, community college campuses. A lot of universities now are requiring freshmen to live on campus, and it says if you do, then you have to be able to provide it at least at a minimum an all-female and all-male housing wing.
Okay.
So it does that. It also speaks to sororities and fraternities that are on public land at our universities, that they have to be able to provide all female living spaces and all male living spaces.
I guess
it's
that's
bizarre.
As
it's
it is
bizarre
today,
times
right?
that we're living in, but
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, sounds like a good deal. So, how would it handle a situation where? How does one establish their gender? Is it based on their
your birth?
Okay.
Birth.
Okay. Because
The
you know,
bill says it in Section 11. It defines, you know, male meaning an individual who naturally has had, will have, or would have, but for development or genetic anomaly or historical accident, the reproductive system at some point produces, transports, or utilizes sperm for fertilization. Same for a female.
Jeez.
It goes through the definitions, and you know it's just kind of, you know, you take a step back and just, you know, you kind of just hold your breath. Where do we go next? What's the next thing that we're going to have to do just to protect? I mean, this is the status quo. This is what, you know, our laws, male, female is referenced over 400 times in our statutes.
I've heard the governor say that.
The definition of it. So we're just trying to basically establish a definition and uphold the norms of our society that have been in place, that our laws are based on, that everybody, you know, I was thinking about asking a question if I was, you know, someone was taking me to task on this bill, is just to ask for everybody, raise your hand if you know, to all my male colleagues, how many of y'all use the ladies' bathroom in the Capitol? And I'm pretty certain nobody would have raised their hand. And that's, you know, that's just kind of a snapshot of, you know, this is why this bill is needed, because, you know, obviously in other parts of the country, and you look at what the Biden's administration is doing to Title IX with the wanting to put changing the definitions in there. I think we're trying to provide safe spaces for our kids and have an expectation that their privacy and their safety will be looked after.
Yeah. Well, let's get this done. Hopefully the House will see fit to pass it. We'll get it to the governor's desk. I feel confident he'll sign it. He's pointed this out as a concern.
I've heard
he
him
has
talk
as well.
about it.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Me too. All right. So school funding, of course, you know, as the finance chairman, that our education funding it comprises, what, 52, 53% or so?
A large percentage.
And that's true on all the 50 states. Public education usually consumes the majority of their general fund budget. We got sort of competing measures, one in the House, one in the Senate, that would sort of revamp the K-12 funding. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, you know, I think if you look at our K-12 education over the last 8-10 years, we've made some significant strides in achievement with our NAEP scores, with the graduation rates. I think it's indicative of the good work that our teachers and administrators are putting into our education. I think that the funding, you know, depends on how you look at it and what the factors that you're funding. I think I haven't seen the House plan yet. I know that the Senate plan, every district received more funding. And look, they're going to have needs too. They've got expenses that are, you know, inflation hits everybody, not just us at home. It hits our schools, our counties, our cities. And I hear from my superintendent frequently about some of the challenges that they're facing. But putting money into education, but when you say putting money in education, we want it to go to the classroom. We want it to go to the benefit of the students. Good teachers, good programs, preparing our teachers to teach. All the things that are necessary to have an educated workforce. You look at all the emphasis we placed on workforce training. I mean, I've talked to my superintendent has raved about the improvement in workforce training that has been going on in our state with career coaches and stuff. It's trying to make sure that our employers have a trainable, coachable employee when these kids get out of school is important. It's important to the success of the companies that are locating here and the ones that are plan on growing here.
Yeah.
That's what our goal is, to have an educated workforce out there. And so
Okay.
Funding education is important. We're going to try to make sure that the money that we are putting in education goes to the classroom, to the benefit of the children, and that's our focus.
A rather lengthy debate last week in your chamber concerning the ballot initiative process. Senator David Parker, of course, with a bill there, and was at the podium for quite some time. What do you think we're going to get there?
The ballot initiative is, some of the changes that were offered on the Senate side. I think they went up to 67%, and it should be a tall threshold to pass to change our Constitution, to put in stuff, and whether it goes into statute is another discussion. I think we should be cautious about changing our Constitution for things that aren't related, that shouldn't be in the Constitution, be in statute.
Yep.
So it's a work in progress. We still have a concurrent resolution to deal with to put these things in, these changes into the Constitution. So we'll continue to work on it. And
Okay.
see where we get.
Always good to see you, Senator.